Have you ever walked away from a conversation feeling heavier, more anxious, or simply drained? What if I told you that certain people, just by being in your life, could be silently sabotaging your peace, your focus, and even your pursuit of inner strength? Welcome to today's guide. Warning: do not befriend people who do these 11 things. A modern Stoicism perspective. Centuries ago, the Stoic philosopher Epictetus urged us to choose our company wisely, and Epicurus, though not a Stoic, offered similar wisdom when he said, "Associate with those who help you become the best version of yourself." You've likely heard the saying, you are the average of the 5 people you spend the most time with. Well, today, we're going to unpack that concept through the powerful lens of Stoic philosophy. We'll dive deep into the 11 types of people who can quietly pull you away from clarity, discipline, and emotional stability. These aren't just annoying habits, they're red flags that could be derailing your path toward resilience and virtue. Before we begin, if you find value in reflections like these, please consider liking this video. It helps this channel grow and allows me to keep sharing the timeless wisdom of Stoicism. And if you haven't already, hit subscribe and turn on the bell so you never miss a new episode from Stoic Capsule. Why this matters: the truth is, the people we surround ourselves with shape more than just our conversations. They shape our thoughts, our behaviors, and even the direction of our lives, whether we're aware of it or not. They influence our judgments, moods, and even our core beliefs. Stoicism teaches us a vital principle: focus on what you can control. And one of the most important things within our control: the company we keep. While some people uplift us, challenge us to grow, and encourage wisdom, others drain our energy, disrupt our peace, and plant seeds of doubt and discontent. If we're not intentional, we might slowly absorb their fears, anxieties, and harmful behaviors without even realizing it. If your goal is to live a life guided by clarity, courage, and calm, then protecting your personal environment is essential. In this video, we'll explore 11 personalities that can undermine that mission. People who, if left unchecked, may steer you away from your Stoic path. So let's begin. Number 1. The complainer. Let's be honest, who's the person in your life who always has something negative to say? Do they drain you or uplift you? The complainer is that person who always sees the problem but never seeks the solution. Their conversations are filled with frustration about work, relationships, or life in general, but when you listen closely, you realize they rarely take action. They vent, they dwell, they stay stuck. And the danger? Their constant negativity begins to color your perspective. You might find yourself mirroring their pessimism, or worse, accepting their hopelessness as truth. From a Stoic view, this person is the antithesis of rational control. They react, they blame, and they externalize. Instead of adapting or problem-solving, they indulge in emotional reactivity. And if you're serious about building inner strength, you must learn to create distance, because the complainer doesn't just express negativity, they spread it. Following the complainer, let's now turn our focus to 4 more dangerous personalities that Stoic wisdom warns us about, each one capable of quietly pulling you off the path of clarity and virtue. The first, the excuse maker. Have you ever met someone who always has a reason why they can't move forward? They say the world is against them, success is just luck, and self-discipline too unrealistic. This is the excuse maker. On the surface, they might seem harmless, maybe even relatable at times. But if you spend too much time around this mindset, their worldview will start to infect your own. And here's the danger. It's subtle. It creeps in. You may catch yourself thinking, maybe I am being too hard on myself. Maybe I should lower the bar. But that is exactly how self-sabotage begins. Stoicism teaches the complete opposite. The Stoics believe that self-responsibility is non-negotiable. You either own your life or your excuses will own you. Seneca said, "It's not that we have a short time to live, but that we waste much of it." And excuse makers are professional time wasters. They drain energy, opportunities, and worst of all, they make you doubt your own ability to act. So ask yourself this. Are the people around you pushing you to step forward or handing you reasons to stay stuck? The second, the gossip. Let's be honest, gossip can feel entertaining. But here's a sobering question. If someone gossips to you, what makes you think they won't gossip about you? The Stoics had zero tolerance for gossip. They saw it as a distraction, a sign of weak character, and a complete misuse of energy. Marcus Aurelius put it perfectly. You always have the option of having no opinion when you gossip. You're fixating on things you cannot control, which is the exact opposite of what Stoic philosophy teaches. More than that, gossipers often tear others down just to feel superior themselves. And here's the uncomfortable truth. If you regularly surround yourself with gossip, what does that reflect about your mindset? Can you go one full day without speaking negatively about someone else? If the answer is no, it's worth reflecting. Who's influencing your conversations? The third, the envious one. You share your good news, maybe a promotion, a creative breakthrough, a personal win. But instead of joy, you're met with forced smiles, half-hearted responses, or worse, subtle jabs. That's envy at work. The Stoics saw envy as irrational. It shifts your focus from what you can improve to obsessing over what others have. Epictetus wisely said, "Wealth consists not in having great possessions, but in having few wants." Envious people live in constant comparison. They won't celebrate your success. They'll downplay it, question it, or quietly try to undercut it. And over time, their presence might even make you feel guilty about your progress. And guilt? It's the seed of self-sabotage. Ask yourself, are the people in your life cheering for your growth, or do they shrink when you rise? The fourth, the hot-tempered. We've all met them, the ones who erupt at the smallest inconvenience. One wrong word, one small delay, and boom, anger takes over. They lash out, cast blame, and leave a trail of emotional chaos behind them. But the Stoics taught that anger is not strength, it's weakness in disguise. Seneca reminds us, the greatest remedy for anger is delay. A person who cannot master their emotions cannot master their life. And here's the thing. Anger spreads. Spend enough time with hot-tempered people, and you'll notice yourself becoming more reactive, more irritable, more defensive. So ask yourself, are you cultivating peace or borrowing chaos? Number 2. The drama magnet. Have you ever noticed how some people seem to live for conflict? Like a lightning rod for chaos. They draw in drama from every direction: gossip, arguments, emotional breakdowns, and somehow they're always at the center of it. These are the drama magnets. They feed on emotional intensity the way a fire feeds on oxygen. Small issues are blown into crises. Simple misunderstandings become full-blown arguments. Their life is a stage, and they want you in the front row, or worse, on stage with them. If you're not careful, their storms will become your storms. And here's the cost: your peace of mind. As someone walking the path of Stoicism, You must understand that tranquility isn't something you stumble upon. It's something you protect. Marcus Aurelius put it clearly. You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength. You're not here to fix their messes. You're not here to carry their emotional burdens or untangle their latest crisis. They want you to react because your reaction fuels their narrative. They thrive on attention, sympathy, and conflict. But Seneca reminds us, a man is as miserable as he thinks he is. And the truth is, drama dies in silence. When you withdraw your emotional attention, the fire they've lit simply runs out of fuel. So ask yourself honestly, what do you gain from being pulled into their whirlwind? Does engaging with their drama make you wiser, more peaceful, or does it drain your energy, cloud your judgment, and distract you from your purpose? We both know the answer. Modern life already presents enough real challenges: career stress, health struggles, family obligations. Why squander your energy on manufactured chaos? The Stoics taught that guarding your mind is as vital as guarding your body. Don't think of it like this. If someone tried to drag you into a physical fight on the street, would you jump in just because they were angry? Of course not. So why do we so often allow emotional battles into our inner world? Epicurus once asked, if someone handed your body to a passerby, you'd be outraged. Yet you hand over your mind to anyone who insults you. Have you no shame in that? That includes drama magnets. Don't let them rent space in your head. I've seen how they operate, how they twist facts, escalate tension, and manufacture conflict to keep themselves entertained and relevant. Their goal? To keep you emotionally invested. Because if you're watching their show, they don't have to sit with their own emptiness, but you have a choice. You can close the curtain, you can walk out of the theater, and you can redirect your attention to what truly matters: your growth, your clarity, your peace. After walking away from the chaos of the drama magnet, there's another threat you must guard against, one that whispers instead of shouts: the naysayer. Number 3, the naysayer have learned through experience that the voices we allow into our lives carry incredible weight. They don't just fill the silence, they shape the way we view ourselves and the path we believe is possible. Some people, whether consciously or not, take it upon themselves to chip away at your confidence. They question your dreams, cast doubt on your abilities, and paint vivid pictures of failure disguised as realism. These are the naysayers, masters of subtle sabotage. They don't scream, they whisper, and that whisper can echo inside your mind if you're not careful. Instead of seeing possibilities, they focus only on obstacles. Where you see opportunity, they see risk, and over time, if you're not grounded, their skepticism becomes your hesitation. Marcus Aurelius, the great Stoic emperor, gave us this reminder: you have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength. That's the secret. Guard your mindset. Because the real danger of a naysayer isn't what they say, it's how their words make you question what you already know to be true. Let me share a story. I once knew someone with a burning passion to start their own business. They had talent, they had drive, and they had done their homework. But every time they shared their vision, there was that one person ready to shoot it down. You know, most businesses fail, right? Are you sure you're cut out for that? What if it all falls apart? They weren't offering advice. They were projecting fear, and sadly, those fears took root. The aspiring entrepreneur began to hesitate. Second-guessing became a habit. Confidence gave way to caution. Eventually, They shelved their dream not because they couldn't do it, but because someone else's doubt became louder than their own belief. That's the quiet tragedy of the naysayer. So, ask yourself, how many dreams have you put on hold because of someone else's fears? How many times have you dimmed your light to make someone else more comfortable? The Stoics warned us not to give others that kind of power. Epictetus said that it's not events that disturb us, but our judgments about them. And often, those judgments are borrowed from others. You must build a wall around your mind just as you would around your home. Not everyone deserves access, especially not those who only show up to tell you why your ideas won't work. A rational mind focused on what it can control becomes immune to external discouragement. And that includes the naysayers. Let them speak if they must, but never let their fear become your limitation. You don't need their approval. What you need is the clarity to trust your path, your purpose, and your preparation. Because the truth is, many people will try to hold you back, not because they don't believe in you, but because they've already given up on themselves. Don't let them write your story. The Stoic response to fear and doubt. Seneca said it best: we suffer more in imagination than in reality. And how true that is. The worries planted by the naysayer often bloom only in our minds. Most of the disasters they warn us about never materialize. But here's the key: even if they do happen, what would a true Stoic do? Would they collapse under the weight of adversity? No. A Stoic faces difficulty with calm, courage, and discipline. They ask one simple question: what is within my control? You can't change the opinions of others. You can't control what people say about your dreams or how they react to your ambitions. But you can shape your response. You can control your effort, your preparation, your consistency, and your resilience. So why spend your energy fighting shadows, engaging with those who offer nothing but discouragement? Here's something worth reflecting on. Have you ever noticed that those who say it can't be done are often the ones who've never even tried? The truth is, most naysayers don't speak from experience. They're not offering wisdom. They're echoing their own regrets. Maybe they once had a dream they didn't pursue. Maybe they failed once and never got back up. So instead of confronting that pain, they pull others down to feel less alone in their own disappointment. But here's the reality: that's not your burden to carry. You don't owe anyone a justification for believing in yourself. You don't need their approval to pursue what sets your soul on fire. If you let their doubt shape your path, you'll end up living someone else's life, one governed by fear, not your own strength. There's a powerful Stoic truth I've come to embrace: other people's opinions are not facts. Just because someone says you can't doesn't make it true. What matters is what you believe and how you act on that belief. Because action is what transforms thought into power. Imagine if Marcus Aurelius had listened to those who doubted his leadership. Imagine if every great mind, creator, or explorer had surrendered to the voices that said, "That's impossible." Where would the world be? The only thing that separates the bold from the hesitant isn't talent or luck. It's the will to keep moving forward, despite the noise. That's where your power lies. Don't let someone else's fear become your ceiling. Don't allow a weaker mind to infect your resolve. You are capable of far more than you imagine, but you'll never know it if you let the doubts of others chart your course. So, the next time someone says your dream is unrealistic, your goals are too ambitious, or your vision is naive, I want you to remember, they are revealing the limits of their own mind, not yours. You were meant for more. But that truth only becomes real if you believe it and act on it. The naysayers will always be there, but their influence is optional. Whether they shape your destiny is entirely in your hands. So ask yourself right now, are you ready to stop letting doubt decide your future? If you are, take the first step. Like this video, comment below, I will not let others stop me. And subscribe for more insights like this, because true power doesn't come from pleasing the crowd. It comes from mastering your own mind. Number 4. The toxic positivist. Let's talk about the toxic positivist, the person who insists on relentless optimism, even when reality demands honesty, hard truths, and deliberate action. You've met them before. You open up about a real struggle. Maybe you're feeling lost, overwhelmed, or stuck. And what do they say? Just stay positive. Think happy thoughts. Everything happens for a reason. As if repeating sunshine slogans can erase the storm. But modern Stoicism teaches something far deeper and far more helpful. The Stoics warned us that excessive optimism can be just as destructive as negativity. Why? Because both distort reality. The Stoic path isn't about blind hope or doom-filled despair. It's about seeing life clearly. It's about observing the world as it is, not as we wish it to be. Because if we refuse to acknowledge hardship, how can we ever overcome it? If we ignore our pain, how can we ever grow stronger? Marcus Aurelius gave us this wisdom. You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength. And true strength doesn't come from pretending that problems don't exist. It comes from facing them with calm determination. So, ask yourself this. Are the people around you encouraging you to confront your challenges with courage and clarity? Or are they gently pushing you into denial, disguised as cheerfulness? Because toxic positivity goes beyond shallow encouragement. It dismisses your emotions. It says, just be happy, when what you really need is understanding. It says, at least it's not worse, when what you need is empathy. Let's be honest, have you ever shared something painful, only to feel dismissed by someone who meant well? Their intentions might be good, but their message is loud and clear. I don't want to deal with your emotions. That's not Stoicism. Stoicism doesn't teach us to suppress what we feel. It teaches us to understand our emotions, to master them, not by ignoring them, but by facing them. As Seneca put it, a gem cannot be polished without friction, nor a man perfected without trials. Pain is not a flaw to fix, it's a forge that refines. Stoics didn't run from suffering. They embraced it as a teacher, because growth requires resistance, not artificial happiness. When you're struggling, you don't need someone to tell you to smile. You need someone who will listen, someone who will help you think clearly, someone who will support you as you take action. So take a moment to reflect. Are the people in your life building your resilience or pulling you into a fantasy world where real problems magically disappear? And here's another hidden danger. When toxic positivity becomes a pattern, it often leads to avoiding responsibility. Have you ever met someone who brushes off mistakes by saying, it'll all work out, but they never actually do anything to make it work? That's not hope. That's complacency. Modern Stoicism teaches that real growth demands effort, not passive hope, not empty mantras. A true Stoic doesn't wait for things to magically improve. They get to work. They prepare for failure but act anyway. They embody their principles instead of explaining them. As Epictetus wisely said, don't explain your philosophy, embody it. So if you're constantly hearing things like, Just trust the universe. But no one's encouraging you to take meaningful action. Ask yourself honestly, are they guiding you toward wisdom or keeping you comfortable in ignorance? And here's where it becomes even more harmful. When toxic positivity replaces real help. For those in need, the damage becomes personal. Imagine someone battling grief, anxiety, or depression instead of empathy. They're told, just focus on the good things. It's not that bad. Do you see the danger? Dismissing pain doesn't cure it. It isolates the person. It pushes them deeper into silence, and often into shame. You can't heal what you won't face, and you can't grow stronger by pretending nothing's wrong. So the next time someone offers you false comfort instead of real support, ask yourself, is their positivity helping you rise or keeping you numb? After revealing the harm of false cheerfulness, it's time we face another subtle mindset that quietly drains your strength, the victim mentality. Number 5. The victim. It's easy to fall into it. We all do it at times, blame the world, point fingers at the people around us, and tell ourselves that life is just unfair. And sometimes, maybe it is. But here's the truth the Stoics knew well. Remaining in that mindset, dwelling in blame, clinging to excuses leaves you completely powerless. Because the more you believe that everything bad in your life is someone else's fault, the more you surrender the only real power you have, your response. Epictetus said it best. It's not what happens to you, but how you react to it that matters. And that idea, that deep, transformative idea, is the heart of Stoicism. Life will never stop throwing curveballs. Jobs will be lost. Relationships will break. Plans will fail. But what matters is not what happens, it's how you show up in the face of it. The Stoic doesn't deny hardship. They don't pretend it's not painful, but they choose to own their reaction. And that's what gives them back their strength. Let me share a story that has stuck with me ever since I heard it. It's about a man named Jim. I came across his journey on a podcast about resilience. Jim had hit rock bottom, laid off from a job he'd given 10 years to, left by a spouse he deeply loved, and overwhelmed by mounting bills. Day after day, he sat in his apartment blaming everyone and everything. His boss, his ex-wife, the economy, even bad luck. And then something shifted. One quiet night, scrolling through book recommendations, Jim stumbled upon the writings of Marcus Aurelius. At first, he dismissed it. Philosophy? I need a job. Not a quote, but something about those words stuck. He read, you have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength. And suddenly it clicked. Jim saw the truth. He wasn't just a victim of his circumstances, he was a prisoner of his own reaction to them. That realization didn't fix everything overnight. He still had bills. He still missed his old life. But now, instead of blaming, he began rebuilding. Small steps, waking up early, applying for jobs, reading more, walking more, owning his mornings, owning his mindset. Bit by bit, he became stronger, not because the world got easier, but because he got clearer. And that's what Stoicism gives us. Not escape, but endurance. Not fantasy, but clarity. So let me ask you, are there moments when you've fallen into victim thinking? Have you ever caught yourself saying, I can't because, or it's not my fault? Because here's what I've learned: every time we do that, we hand our power to someone else. But when we say, I choose how I respond, we take it back. The victim mentality may feel justified, but it's a trap. A quiet trap that slowly steals your peace, your discipline, your growth. So if you want to live by Stoic principles, you must start here. Refuse to be a victim in your own life story. Be the author. Be the warrior. Be the one who rises when life knocks you down. Because resilience isn't just something you're born with. It's something you build one choice, one reaction, one moment at a time. As Jin gradually reclaimed his power, what followed was nothing short of transformative. Over time, he began to take back control, first of his habits, then of his mindset, and eventually, his entire life. He rebuilt his career, step by step. He reconnected with friends and family, slowly repairing relationships he once believed were broken beyond repair. The man who once felt like a helpless victim of life's circumstances was now a living example of resilience in motion. Jin's journey serves as a powerful reminder. When we stop blaming others and start owning our responses, we begin to unlock a strength we never knew we had. This is the essence of Stoicism: personal responsibility, emotional mastery, and the refusal to let life's turbulence steer us off course. Because life, as the Stoics teach us, isn't about avoiding setbacks. It's about learning how to rise again, stronger, wiser, and more grounded after we fall. By fully embracing the idea that we may not control every storm, but we do control how we sail through it, we start to build what Stoic thinkers call an iron mind. What is an iron mind? It's that inner anchor, the mental fortress that stands firm in chaos. It doesn't mean we feel nothing, but it means we're not ruled by everything. Just like Jim, you too can shift from a state of helplessness to one of quiet, unshakable strength. It begins not with the world changing, but with your perspective, with choosing to pause instead of panic, to reflect instead of react. Is it easy? No. But is it worth it? Absolutely. And once you begin this shift, the victim mentality starts to lose its grip on you. You no longer walk through life weighed down by blame and bitterness. You begin to move with clarity, discipline, and purpose, choosing your response in every moment. This is what Stoicism calls us to cultivate. Not perfection, but power. Not denial, but discipline. Not control over others, but command over ourselves. And now, with your mindset sharpened and your perspective clear, it's time to turn our attention to the next quiet threat to your energy. The manipulator. Number 6. The manipulatorist. As Jin reclaimed his strength by mastering his mindset. You to have the power to break free from internal chains. But sometimes, the greatest threats don't come from within, they come from the people who know how to twist your mind from the outside. Let's talk about one of the most draining figures you can ever allow into your life. The manipulator. On the surface, they might seem harmless, charismatic, generous, even thoughtful. But beneath that charm lies a quiet control, a way of making you question your own feelings, your own decisions, and even your own worth. Have you ever walked away from a conversation feeling exhausted, like you gave more than you had, and yet somehow ended up being the one who felt guilty? That's not coincidence. That's emotional manipulation. These individuals have a keen sense for vulnerability. They'll use flattery when it suits them, guilt when it's convenient, and subtle pressure that makes you feel like saying no is somehow wrong or selfish. You'll catch yourself second-guessing your instincts, walking on eggshells, wondering if you're the problem when, in truth, you've simply been pulled into someone else's emotional game. But here's the truth that Stoicism teaches us. You can't control their behavior, but you absolutely can control your response. Marcus Aurelius said it best. You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength. So how did you protect yourself from the manipulator? First, recognize the signs. If someone constantly makes you feel guilty for setting boundaries or pressures you with kindness, just to get something in return, that's manipulation. Second, and most importantly, set firm, unapologetic boundaries. Stoicism is about acting from reason, not from guilt. It's about making choices that align with your values, not someone else's expectations. Ask yourself, how many times have you said yes just to keep the peace, only to feel resentment grow quietly inside you? Each of those moments chips away at your self-respect and inner calm. But you don't have to keep giving pieces of yourself away. Saying no doesn't make you selfish. It makes you strong. And walking away from manipulation doesn't make you cold. It makes you wise. The manipulator may never stop trying to push your buttons, but once you stop reacting to them, their control over you begins to disappear. You reclaim your emotional space, your time, and your power. And that, my friend, is how a modern Stoic lives with clarity, courage, and calm. Now, let's explore another subtle danger, the one that drains your most precious resource, your time. Number 7, the time vampire. Once you begin to honor your boundaries and refuse to be pulled into emotional manipulation, something powerful happens. You reclaim your time, your clarity, and your self-respect. That's the real essence of Stoic strength, choosing calm, clarity, and courage over chaos. The manipulator's control dissolves the moment you stop reacting and start reflecting. Stoicism teaches us that the key to freedom lies not in controlling others, but in mastering our own responses. You are not obligated to please anyone at the cost of your own well-being. In fact, every time you say no with integrity, you're reinforcing the value you place on yourself. Have you ever looked back and realized how much time you spent trying to appease others, sacrificing your own peace in the process? That time, once lost, doesn't return. The Stoics knew this, and that's why they urged us to live with intention. We are not responsible for other people's manipulations, but we are responsible for how long we tolerate them. The moment you stop playing along, you shift the dynamic. You take back control, not with anger, not with drama, but with quiet confidence. And that confidence draws healthier, more honest people into your life. Stoic teachings remind us of 3 powerful virtues in relationships: wisdom, to see clearly when someone's behavior is crossing the line; courage, to set boundaries, even when it feels uncomfortable; justice, to insist that you be treated with fairness, respect, and honesty. The manipulator thrives in the shadows of your hesitation. But once you shine the light of awareness and stand your ground, they lose their grip. And in doing so, you send a message not just to them, but to the world that you know your worth. As Epictetus once said, freedom is the only thing you cannot have unless you give it to others. In other words, when you give others too much power over your time, emotions, or decisions, you're surrendering the very freedom Stoicism helps you reclaim. So ask yourself, are your relationships lifting you up or draining your spirit? When you walk away from manipulation and stand firm in your values, you're not being cold, you're being clear. And that clarity invites real connection, grounded in mutual respect. Now, with the manipulator behind us, we turn to another subtle trap in the modern world, one that hides behind pleasure, excess, and desire. Let's talk about the overindulgent. Number 8, the overindulgent. After freeing ourselves from manipulation, we face another challenge that's just as deceptive, but far more subtle. The temptation to overindulge. In today's world, where excess is marketed as happiness and consumption is often mistaken for fulfillment, it's easy to lose our way. Overindulgence creeps in quietly. It convinces us that more is always better, more stuff, more food, more dopamine. But have you ever stopped to ask, at what cost, according to the Stoics? When we become slaves to our desires, constantly chasing after pleasures, possessions, or external validation, we lose something vital, our freedom. We may think we're in control, but in reality, we're being controlled by impulses we've never questioned. Think about it. That second helping of dessert, the impulsive shopping spree, or the constant scroll through social media. It may bring temporary satisfaction. But how long does it last before you're craving the next hit? And what happens when those sources of pleasure disappear? This cycle of dependency builds an unstable emotional foundation. Your peace becomes tied to things outside yourself, things that can vanish at any moment. And when they do, your sense of joy, of balance, goes with them. But the Stoics saw through this illusion. They understood that true contentment doesn't come from the outside, it comes from within. Real happiness, they taught, is built on moderation, discipline, and a clear, grounded mind. An iron mind, as they called it, is one that isn't shaken by fleeting temptations or the chaos of desires. Instead, it's rooted in clarity and strength. Pleasure, in itself, isn't wrong. But without balance, it becomes a prison. So how do we break free? We start by practicing restraint, not out of denial, but out of wisdom. When you choose moderation, something amazing happens. You begin to enjoy the small things more deeply. A quiet morning walk, a simple home-cooked meal, a heartfelt conversation. These moments become richer not because they're extravagant, but because you are present enough to appreciate them. As Marcus Aurelius once said, the happiness of your life depends upon the quality of your thoughts. That means we don't need to chase joy, we need to cultivate it from within. Modern life pushes us to consume, to chase, to crave, but Stoicism pulls us back to center. It reminds us that when we stop needing more, we discover we already have enough. Let me ask you, are your habits driven by clarity or by craving? By choosing discipline, you reclaim your focus. By mastering your impulses, you regain peace. You stop living in reaction to the world and instead begin shaping your life with purpose. And that is true freedom, not needing the next new thing to feel whole, but learning to be whole with less. With that in mind, let's turn to another silent saboteur of inner peace, one that can masquerade as harmless, but erodes trust and clarity over time. Number 9. Let's talk about the gossip. After warning us about the dangers of overindulgence, Stoicism now turns our attention to a more subtle yet equally corrosive threat: gossip. I once had a friend who seemed to always have the latest scoop. At first, her conversations were entertaining: little stories, updates on mutual acquaintances, whispers of what others had done or said. But over time, I noticed something troubling. Her words were rarely kind. They were often sharp judgments aimed at people who weren't even there to defend themselves. And it wasn't just an occasional comment, it was a pattern. The more time I spent around her, the more I found myself unconsciously influenced. I began forming opinions about people not based on first-hand experience, but on second-hand whispers. Has that ever happened to you? Have you ever doubted someone's character based solely on what someone else said, only to find out later that It wasn't true. That's the hidden poison of gossip. It doesn't just harm the person being talked about, it slowly distorts your thinking too. How many times have you found yourself participating in gossip, only to feel a sense of discomfort? Afterward, it's draining. It chips away at your peace. I realized I was pouring energy into idle conversations that added zero value to my growth or purpose. This is where Stoic philosophy shines. Marcus Aurelius, the great Stoic emperor, once said, "Waste no more time arguing about what a good man should be. Be one." Gossip distracts us from that mission. It pulls our attention away from truth, from virtue, from self-mastery, and drags it into the muddy waters of speculation and judgment. Think about it. Have you ever overheard a rumor at work or among friends, and before you knew it, you were swept into the drama? It feels exciting to be in the know. But what do you gain from it? Does it help you become wiser, kinder, more focused? Of course not. Gossip pulls us further from integrity. It feeds ego, not virtue. And as Stoics, we're taught to focus only on what's within our control, our own thoughts, our own actions. Everything else, especially the chatter about others, is just noise. And here's something else to consider. Have you noticed how your mood changes when you dwell on gossip or negativity? In the moment, it might feel like relief or entertainment, but afterward, there's a heaviness. It lingers. It weighs on the soul. Now imagine channeling that same energy into something better, into your growth, your discipline, your clarity. When we live according to Stoic principles, we begin to see how much more peace we can cultivate by choosing truth over drama, presence over judgment. Marcus Aurelius reminds us again, the happiness of your life depends upon the quality of your thoughts. If your mind is constantly filled with negative, judgmental chatter, how can you expect to feel fulfilled? You become what you think about. So let me ask, who in your life frequently engages in gossip, and how is that affecting your mindset? Are you part of conversations that enrich your values, or ones that pull you further from them? It's not always easy to step away. At first, it might feel like you're missing out. But the more you practice the Stoic art of emotional independence, the more you'll see that these distractions lose their grip on you. You'll stop letting others define your perceptions. You'll stop wasting time on what doesn't serve your purpose. Instead, you'll build your character quietly, powerfully through integrity and intention. And when that shift happens, something beautiful unfolds. Your energy becomes yours again. Your focus sharpens. Your growth accelerates. Let go of the gossip. Hold on to your values, because that is how true Stoic strength is formed. Now, let's turn to the final and perhaps most difficult influence to confront, the weight of resentment and the liberating power of forgiveness. Number 10, the opportunist. Now that we've stepped away from gossip and reclaimed our peace, it's time to confront another subtle influence that can quietly derail our purpose, the relentless presence of pessimism. Have you ever spent time with someone who seems to find a problem in every solution? Someone who sees the cloud in every silver lining and points out every possible way things could go wrong? That's the hallmark of the pessimist, the person who focuses so much on obstacles that they become blind to possibility. The real issue? When pessimism becomes a habit, perception becomes reality. These individuals don't just expect failure, they create it, simply by never allowing themselves to believe in success. And because they never believe things will work out, they rarely take meaningful action. They remain stuck. Now let me be clear. Stoicism doesn't ask you to be blindly optimistic or to ignore real risks. Life is full of uncertainties, and caution has its place. But modern Stoicism teaches us something far more powerful, that we must be mindful of the energy we surround ourselves with, because if you're constantly immersed in pessimistic thinking, how can you ever expect your own mindset to remain resilient? Marcus Aurelius, the philosopher emperor, said it best: the happiness of your life depends upon the quality of your thoughts. This isn't just about seeing the glass as half full. It's about training your mind to search for wisdom, even in difficulty. It's about learning to see challenge not as a dead end, but as a doorway to growth. So what should you do when you find yourself around someone who constantly radiates doom and gloom? Someone who drains the life out of every room, every conversation, every dream. First pause, breathe, and remind yourself their negativity is a reflection of their own inner world. It is not yours to carry. You do not have to absorb their worldview. You have the power to protect your mental clarity. This is where Stoic principles of rational thinking and emotional detachment become invaluable. Ask yourself, is there a lesson hidden beneath their fear? Is there something I can learn without letting it cloud my perspective? There's wisdom in listening, yes, but even more in choosing which voices deserve your attention. It's also worth remembering this: pessimists aren't necessarily bad people. Often, they are simply caught in a pattern of thought that's been reinforced by past disappointments. But just because they are stuck doesn't mean you have to join them there. The Stoic response: boundaries. You can listen with compassion. You can empathize, but you do not have to adopt their lens on life. Protect your vision. Stay anchored in your own values and goals. And here's something to reflect on. Every time you hold your ground and refuse to be pulled into someone else's spiral, you're not just protecting your mindset, you're building your character. When you remain calm and purposeful in the face of negativity, you cultivate what the Stoics called an iron mind, one that's unshaken by emotion, focused on virtue, and always ready to respond with reason rather than reactivity. So ask yourself this: are the people in your life helping you see possibility, or pushing you to expect defeat? And more importantly, are you willing to be the one who chooses to believe in growth, even when others cannot? Because that choice, that clarity, is where your strength begins. Previously, we explored the draining effects of pessimism and how your mindset can either limit or liberate your life. Now, let's shift gears and talk about how choosing your company wisely can be a powerful act of self-respect. Number 11, the energy drainer. There came a point in my own journey when I realized something simple, yet transformative. The people you spend time with shape the person you become. I found that when I intentionally surrounded myself with those who uplifted me, people who didn't just see problems, but looked for solutions, my entire mindset began to shift. Positivity wasn't forced. It felt natural. Possibility began to feel real. That shift didn't happen by accident. It was a choice, a commitment to protect my peace and fuel my potential. So here's a challenge for you. The next time you're faced with a problem, or you find yourself in conversation with someone who only sees the downside, pause. Take a deep breath and ask yourself, what is the opportunity here? What can I learn or grow from in this situation? That simple shift in perspective, grounded in the practice of modern Stoicism, can change the entire trajectory of your thinking. You see, obstacles are not barriers. They are invitations, opportunities in disguise. And when you start viewing them through this lens, you'll stop wasting energy on complaints and begin focusing on solutions. Just like the ancient Stoics, you will begin to cultivate an iron-minder, mind that is resilient, calm, and deeply rooted in logic. A mind that doesn't crumble under pressure, but instead grows stronger through it. When you make this internal shift from dwelling on what's wrong to focusing on what's possible, you no longer just cope with life. You begin to master it. You become the person who brings clarity where others bring confusion, who shines light where others only cast shadows. And that is the true power of Stoic thinking, not just surviving the chaos of the world, but thriving through it. So, let me ask you, will you continue to echo the pessimism around you? Or will you become the voice of perspective, reason, and strength? If you're watching this right now, you're already on that path. You're taking time to reflect, to grow, and to reframe how you see the world. And for that, I want to genuinely thank you. In fact, if you've made it this far, I invite you to drop a comment below. It really helps support this channel, and I'd love to hear your thoughts. You can even write something as simple as, "I'm going to start changing my perspective today." That alone can be your first act of change. And if you're finding value in this video, don't forget to subscribe. This channel is all about helping you live with more clarity, strength, and wisdom. The ancient Stoics, masters of self-awareness and emotional mastery, deeply understood the power of perception. They knew that how we choose to view the world directly shapes how we experience it. Marcus Aurelius, one of the greatest Stoic philosophers, said it best: "The happiness of your life depends upon the quality of your thoughts." This isn't just a motivational quote, it's a profound reminder that our thoughts are not just fleeting ideas, they are the architects of our reality. It's not merely about seeing the glass as half full. It's about recognizing the hidden lessons, the opportunities embedded in every obstacle. It's about choosing not to let your vision be clouded by negativity. Modern Stoicism acknowledges that life is full of uncertainty, discomfort, and challenge. But the heart of the philosophy lies not in changing the world, but in choosing how we respond to it. So what should you do when you encounter someone who constantly radiates pessimism, someone who drains the life out of every conversation, who sees darkness in every light? The first step is simple but powerful. Remember that their negativity is a reflection of their own internal state, not yours. You do not have to absorb their energy. You don't need to carry the emotional weight of their world. You have the power and the duty to protect your own mental clarity. How? By practicing Stoic tools like rational thinking, emotional detachment, and disciplined perception. Next time you're in the presence of a pessimist, try asking yourself, is there a hidden lesson in their complaints? Is this an opportunity to grow in patience, understanding, or resilience? Maybe what they call a problem is actually your training ground. You see, Stoicism teaches that we can't control what happens around us, but we can always control what happens within us. And when you respond to darkness with light, when you meet negativity with thoughtful calm, you begin to build a new path, one that leads forward, not in circles. And here's something important that's often overlooked. Pessimists aren't necessarily bad people. Many are simply trapped in outdated patterns of thinking. But that doesn't mean their mindset should become yours. This is where boundaries come in. You can listen, you can empathize, but you must not let their worldview infect yours. Their fear cannot become your reality. If someone is perpetually negative, if every interaction leaves you drained or doubtful, it may be time to step back. not out of cruelty, but out of self-respect. From personal experience, I can tell you, when you begin surrounding yourself with people who challenge you to grow, who uplift you, who see possibility, you will feel your entire mindset shift. You'll notice that your thoughts begin to lean towards solutions rather than problems. This simple yet powerful application of Stoic thinking will change everything. You'll begin to see that obstacles aren't roadblocks, they are stepping stones. Each challenge becomes a chance to grow stronger, to think clearer, to act with more intention. In time, you'll start cultivating what the Stoics called an iron-minded mindset that is not easily shaken, but grounded in reason, resilience, and courage. So let me ask you, are you ready to stop being the victim of pessimism? Are you ready to embrace rationality and hope instead? Because when you do, you not only transform your own life, you also become a source of strength for others. That is the true power of Stoicism. You have the ability to control your mindset, no matter what the world throws your way. Embrace that power and you'll begin to see the world not through fear, but through possibility. So, what's your next move? Will you continue to entertain the weight of pessimism, or will you rise above it, reclaim your energy, and take control of your perspective? The choice, as always, is yours. Now that you've begun mastering your mindset, the next step is just as important: choosing who you allow into your mental and emotional space. It's not enough to simply distance yourself from toxic or draining individuals. Real transformation happens when you also intentionally cultivate a social circle rooted in wisdom, virtue, and resilience. Just like a garden, your life will only flourish if it's nurtured by the right environment, by people who help you grow, challenge you to stay accountable, and walk with you on the path towards self-mastery. Modern Stoicism reminds us that meaningful friendships are built on more than convenience or shared interests. They're grounded in mutual respect, shared values, and a deep commitment to personal growth. In a world often driven by superficial interactions, we must choose instead to surround ourselves with those who inspire clarity, purpose, and strength. So how do we actually build this kind of Stoic social circle? In this section, we'll explore 5 essential ways to create a support network that aligns with Stoic principles. 1. That helps you sharpen your thoughts, elevate your actions, and remain grounded in your purpose. Let's begin with the first and perhaps most foundational step. Surround yourself with virtuous people. Have you ever paused to think about how much influence the people around you truly have on your mindset, your choices, even your character? It's something I've been reflecting on more and more, and the more I think about it, the clearer it becomes. The people in your life don't just influence what you do, they shape who you become. Epictetus warned us to choose our company wisely, because their presence will inevitably shape our habits, beliefs, and emotional responses. And when you think about it, that's a huge deal. Every time you engage with someone, you're letting their energy, their mindset, their standards rub off on you. That means when you choose your friends, you're actually choosing your future self. So ask yourself honestly, how often do you find yourself surrounded by people who drain your energy, who bring negativity, encourage excuses, or tempt you with shortcuts that go against your values? Is that who you want to become? Now imagine the opposite. Imagine surrounding yourself with individuals who embody the Stoic virtues: wisdom, courage, justice, and self-discipline. People who live with purpose, who take responsibility for their actions, who hold themselves and others to a higher standard. How would your mindset shift how would your behavior evolve? Because here's the thing, when you spend time with people who are grounded in virtue, you naturally begin to absorb their mindset. Their habits inspire you. Their strength lifts you. Their clarity sharpens your own. These are not the kinds of people who let you coast through life. They challenge you to think more deeply, to act more deliberately, to keep moving forward even when it's uncomfortable. But it's not always easy to recognize them at first. Sometimes, people appear supportive on the surface, but over time, their actions reveal something else. Maybe they encourage laziness. Maybe they feed your ego instead of your growth. Maybe they distract you from your values rather than reinforce them. That's why it's crucial to stay awake, to pay close attention to the subtle signals others give you. Ask yourself, do they make you feel more focused or more distracted? More empowered or more reactive? Do they help you stay true to yourself or subtly pull you away from who you're trying to become? In the end, your social circle should reflect your highest values, not your lowest compromises, and that begins with one choice at a time. Are you choosing people who push you to live with integrity or people who pull you toward convenience? The answer will shape everything. Now that you've reflected on the influence of those around you, let's turn the lens inward, because building the right circle starts with becoming the right person. Ask yourself honestly, are the people in your life genuinely seeking wisdom and truth? Or are they stuck in patterns of negativity, jealousy, or deceit? It's not always easy to answer that question, especially when convenience, shared history, or comfort try to convince us to hold on. But this is precisely where the power of modern Stoicism becomes clear. Stoic teachings urge us to constantly evaluate whether our relationships are helping us cultivate virtue or quietly pulling us away from it. And that evaluation starts by asking a tough question. When was the last time you walked away from a conversation feeling uplifted, sharpened, and inspired to be better? Do your closest friends encourage you to rise, or do they invite you into toxic cycles that leave you mentally and emotionally drained? I've learned firsthand that the right friendships don't just offer comfort, they challenge you. They hold a mirror to your weaknesses and push you to grow past them. And isn't that what real growth demands? Not just comfort, but the kind of discomfort that teaches you, that transforms you, that refines your character like fire tempers steel. So it's time to make some honest, even difficult choices. What kind of energy are you letting into your world? Do your relationships reflect the kind of person you're striving to become, or do they hold you back from it? Marcus Aurelius said it best: the impediment to action advances action. What stands in the way becomes the way. Every challenge you face, even the difficult decision to distance yourself from a harmful relationship, can become a stepping stone toward deeper strength. But here's the catch. If you're surrounded by people who continuously block your growth or cloud your clarity, you may never even recognize the opportunities in front of you. You'll miss them not because you're incapable, but because you're distracted. Now imagine something different. Imagine what it would feel like to be surrounded by people who see you, who support your values, and who challenge you to keep evolving. What would happen if your environment encouraged your highest potential instead of reinforcing your limitations? Wouldn't that be the kind of circle worth building? A space where you're not afraid to be vulnerable, where truth is welcomed, where setbacks become shared lessons, not reasons for shame. A space where the pursuit of wisdom is mutual, not lonely. But here's the deeper truth. Building that kind of environment doesn't begin with changing them. It begins with changing you. You must become the kind of person you want to attract. Because the people in your life will always mirror something back to you. Their presence, whether supportive or toxic, reflects the kind of energy you're allowing and, more importantly, the kind of energy you're putting out. So instead of obsessing over who to cut out, ask yourself, who do I need to become to attract the kind of relationships I want? What qualities do you admire in others? Strength, wisdom, integrity, courage. These aren't traits reserved for a chosen few. They are Stoic virtues, timeless principles that anyone can embody with daily intention. When you show up consistently with resilience in adversity, when you choose self-discipline over chaos, when you speak with wisdom and remain calm under pressure, you begin to attract people who live by those same codes. It's magnetic. I'm not saying you have to be perfect, but when you live with purpose, when you walk with intention, and when you honor your values, the right people will begin to find you, not by accident, but by alignment. And that, right there, is the quiet power of Stoicism at work. Once you begin embodying Stoic values in your own life, something remarkable starts to happen. You stop chasing people and start attracting the right ones. Marcus Aurelius, one of the greatest Stoic minds in history, once said, "The best revenge is not to be like your enemy." What does that mean in today's context? Simply this: you don't need to lower yourself to toxic games, gossip, or bitterness. You don't need to match others in conflict or drama. Your power lies in not becoming like them. Instead, rise above. Be a person of integrity, of calm strength, and let your presence speak louder than any words ever could. And here's the beautiful part. You don't have to hunt for the perfect people. You don't need to scroll endlessly, seek constant approval, or hustle for connection. When you genuinely commit to becoming a person of character, someone who lives by the principles of wisdom, courage, temperance, and justice, people who respect those same values will find their way to you. That's the core of modern Stoicism, the idea that personal virtue is magnetic. When you live it, breathe it, and apply it consistently, the right kind of energy follows. You begin to radiate something rare: an inner peace, a quiet confidence, an unwavering presence, and others are drawn to that. Not because you're trying to impress them, but because you're deeply aligned with yourself. Now, I know how hard that can be, especially when you're surrounded by negativity. When people around you are reactive, loud, manipulative, or addicted to drama, it's easy to get swept into the same emotional current. But here's where you must choose differently. Instead of reacting, choose to observe. Choose to anchor yourself in discipline. Choose to strengthen your iron mind. Think of your mind like a muscle. It grows stronger every time you resist the urge to lash out, complain, or spiral. Every time you choose silence over gossip, action over blame, logic over chaos, you're training yourself. You're building mental armor. And as that strength builds, people will notice. The ones who value depth, wisdom, and resilience will naturally move closer. They'll respect your calm in the storm. And no, you don't have to be perfect. You don't need all the answers. But if you commit to showing up every day as a student of life, as someone practicing resilience, seeking wisdom, choosing calm over chaos, you will slowly become the person you've always wanted to be. And the relationships you attract will reflect that. I can speak from experience. The more you align with your values, the more your circle evolves. Suddenly, the conversations become richer. The friendships feel lighter and more authentic. You find yourself surrounded by people who don't drain you but challenge you. support you, and help you rise. The Stoics had a saying, "What we do now echoes in eternity." Every small choice you make to become stronger, kinder, wiser, it adds up. Those daily acts of self-discipline and quiet leadership ripple outward, shaping the kind of relationships you welcome into your life. So ask yourself this: are you focused on impressing others or becoming someone worth being around? Because the more you live with intention, the more your life becomes a reflection of what you value most. When you develop your iron mind, when you stop chasing and start building, you create a circle that uplifts rather than depletes, that challenges you instead of distracting you. And that, my friend, is the kind of friendship that not only lasts but transforms. Now that we've explored how becoming your best self naturally draws the right people into your life, let's take a closer look at something just as important: protecting your time and energy. Because here's the truth: even the strongest mind can be drained by constant demands. And that's why Stoicism teaches us something powerful and often overlooked: the art of selective availability. Marcus Aurelius once wrote, "Time is like a sword and we are its wielder." It's a striking image, isn't it? Your time isn't just something that gets spent, it's something you direct. Every moment you give away is a conscious choice. Are you using that time to grow, to rest, to invest in meaningful relationships, or are you letting it slip away into obligations that drain you? Let me ask you, how often do you pause and really consider whether a social interaction is worth your energy? You probably know what I mean. You've had days where you gave so much of yourself to work, to friends, to family that by the end, you were completely spent. Maybe it felt good in the moment to be there for everyone, but afterward, you were exhausted, unfocused, distant from your own needs. This is exactly where selective availability comes in. Modern Stoicism reminds us we don't owe everyone access to our time. Just because someone asks for your attention doesn't mean they deserve it. Just because you can say yes doesn't mean you should. I want to share a story that illustrates this beautifully. A friend of mine, let's call him John, was the classic yes person. Reliable, generous, always there, whether it was a late night phone call from a co-worker or another social event he didn't really want to attend. John showed up. Every time, he thought he was doing the right thing, being a good friend, a good son, a good colleague. And for a while, people loved him for it. But inside, he was unraveling. John started to feel overwhelmed. His goals faded into the background. He couldn't focus, couldn't rest, and worst of all, he didn't feel joy in the things that once inspired him. He was constantly depleted mentally and emotionally. Then one day, while flipping through meditations, he came across this Stoic truth: you have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength. It stopped him in his tracks. John realized that while he couldn't control the demands others placed on him, he could absolutely control how he responded. That moment sparked a transformation. He began setting boundaries, clear ones. He said no without guilt. He prioritized rest and focus. And though it felt uncomfortable at first, something incredible began to happen. His energy returned. He felt more alive, more clear-headed, more himself. So I ask you, how many times have you said yes out of guilt, only to feel resentful or empty afterward? How often do you stretch yourself thin for people or activities that don't align with who you're trying to become? This is where selective availability becomes a practice, not just a principle. The next time you're invited somewhere, or someone wants a piece of your time, pause, take a breath, and ask yourself, does this align with my values? Will this interaction uplift me or drain me? Imagine the kind of life you could build if you said yes only to what nourishes your purpose, your peace, your progress. That time you free up, you could pour it into your self-development, your passions, your health, or the relationships that truly matter, where love, respect, and growth flow both ways. You don't need to apologize for protecting your energy. In fact, it's one of the highest acts of self-respect you can offer. So go ahead, wield your time like the Stoics taught. Us, with clarity, with intention, with strength. And trust me, the more you guard your time like a treasure, the more your life will begin to reflect that value in every area. And now that you understand the power of guarding your time and energy, it's time to turn that insight into action. Before you say yes to the next invitation, favor, or demand, pause. Ask yourself honestly, is this worth my time? Will this bring me closer to the person I want to become? Or will it pull me away from the peace I've worked so hard to cultivate? This isn't about being selfish. It's about being intentional. Your time is the most precious resource you'll ever own. And just like you'd lock your doors to protect your home, you must protect your mental space with equal care. Stoicism teaches us that setting boundaries isn't a rejection of others. It's a deep commitment to honoring ourselves. So today, I invite you to take a powerful step forward. Begin setting clear, respectful boundaries. Say yes when it aligns with your values, and learn to say no without guilt when it doesn't. This one shift can transform the way you live, work, and connect. Leave a comment below with the phrase, "Help me craft a boundary-setting mantra." A simple way to declare your intention and join a community of people committed to clarity, peace, and self-discipline. Because here's what truly matters: living a life of presence over distraction, cherishing your time, guarding your energy, choosing the people and the pursuits that elevate, rather than exhaust, your spirit. Building a Stoic social circle isn't just about avoiding negative influences, it's about deliberately surrounding yourself with people who help you become stronger, wiser, and more grounded. The right relationships don't just support you, they refine you. They sharpen your character, uplift your spirit, and keep your values front and center. Remember, Stoicism is not a solitary pursuit. It's a way of being in the world with others, a way of choosing connection over chaos, depth over drama, wisdom over noise. So ask yourself one final question. Are the people in your life helping you rise? Or are they quietly holding you back? This isn't about casting judgment. It's about choosing peace, choosing growth, choosing to walk your path with clarity and purpose. If you've recognized any of these 11 personality types in your own life, those who drain your energy, distract you from your purpose, or discourage your growth, then maybe it's time to create some space. Time to set limits. Time to rise. As Epictetus wisely reminds us, we must be cautious about the company we keep, for they shape our thoughts and actions. Choose wisely. Surround yourself with those who elevate your soul, who challenge you with love, and who walk beside you in the pursuit of wisdom. Now, I'd love to hear from you. Which of these types have been the biggest challenge for you? How have you handled it? Drop a comment below, and let's continue this conversation together. If this video resonated with you, please give it a like, subscribe for more, and share it with someone who needs to hear this today. Your support helps us grow a community dedicated to living with courage, purpose, and peace of mind. Until next time, stay grounded, stay strong, and keep cultivating your iron mind.